Hey everyone. God love you, Barbara Kay. You put out some great articles defending men. And the fact that you're a woman, it does not go unnoticed and it's very much appreciated because, if a man does it, oh, misogynist, patriarchy, blah, blah, blah. Thankfully, there are women like you that will stand up and defend men. And, kind of put a backstop to the backlash against us. Headline from the National Post. Why does a report on gender equity in mental health all but ignore the illness of men and boys? Oh, thank goodness for Barbara, like I say, for people that are out there. And it's not just Barbara, but she's definitely at the front and center in her willingness to stand up for equality for both sexes, not just one. I mean, thank goodness for such people. You have no idea how important it is to have even just one single voice such as Barbara's out there. You think one person or one voice don't mean a whole lot? Well, I'm here to tell you right now. I'm just one voice. Barbara's just one voice. But, if you're speaking truth to reason, being logically consistent, morally consistent, compassionate, right? Ethical, putting justice as the forefront, genuine justice as the forefront of your mind, you have a lot of power. You have a lot of influence. Never underestimate yourself, even though you are just an individual. Although I don't even like saying that term, just an individual. Every group, every collective, every gang, they're all comprised of individuals. In a column last March, I described the radical progressive mind's inability to see inequalities on the left and its fixation with right-wing evil as the ideological equivalent of a neurological syndrome called hemispatial neglect. Those afflicted with hemispatial neglect lose recognition of space on one entire side of the body. It isn't that they have a desire to see what's on the other side that is lost to them, but simply cannot see it. Rather, it is that they have lost awareness that there is another side. Give them a plate of food and they will only eat the food on the side that they can see, but they will believe they have finished their meal. Ask them to draw a line down the middle of their body and they will draw the line through the middle of their prospective side. The syndrome in its ideological form is apparent in the radical feminist assessment of human evolution and its skewed approach to strategies for society's improvement. We have a case study in ideological hemispatial neglect, for example, in a recent motion adopted by the European Parliament. The motion forms part of a report on promoting gender equity in mental health and clinical research, which was submitted by the Committee on the European Parliament's Women's Rights and Gender Equality. The words gender equality in the report's title imply a bilateral concern for the mental health issues facing men and women. But the report disproportionately refers to women and girls' mental health issues, making little mention of the mental health issues that affect men and boys. Just like in Canada, and I've made videos in the past. Look through my past videos, just do a search. When you go to my YouTube page and you go into the video section, just do a quick search, that little magnifying glass. Just use a keyword, and I think the keyword I would have used back then for that those particular videos would have been, the murdered, missing, and indigenous women. Just put MMIW or indigenous women and then use men as another search term criteria and it'll come up for you. But you'll see, it's like same with that. It's like when you read through the reports, and back then, the overwhelming majority of the Aboriginal population that seemed to suffer the most, like deaths from suicide and devastating effects of social and economic consequences and degradations. It's predominantly men, but it's always about, we're going to study about the women. But in reality, if you're a morally compassionate human being, let's fucking stop dividing the sexes, right? Can we start to fucking talk about humans? Like, let's just not divvy up the sexes. They're human beings. We're all human beings, right? We're all made of flesh and bones. We all have hearts and minds. We're all human beings, for Christ's sake. Stop divvying up the sexes. That's the biggest problem I see from these political propagandas and these opportunists. Just look out there. The people that are promoting actual rights for everyone, those are the people you should look to and respect and admire. And those are, like I say, libertarians predominantly, because libertarians have no skin in the game. These are people that don't have an identity crisis with a particular tribe. People like myself, I don't fall into any collective narrative or dialogue. It's like, oh, you can't paint me in with this group, you can't paint me in with this group or this gang or this gang. I'm all about the individual. That's what libertarians are all about. Respecting the individual and individual rights and freedoms. If you respect and give and promote the rights of the individual, it doesn't matter if you're man, woman, or anything in between, right? It's all about the individual. Collectivists like to pit one team against the other, whereas libertarians like, no. Fuck the teams. Fuck the teams. Well, I mean, you can have your teams. If you want to have your teams. By all means, have your teams. But you don't get to impose your ideas on me, and I don't get to impose my ideas on you, and your team doesn't get to impose your ideas on that team and that team. It's just about respecting the individual and respecting each other. That's what libertarian values and principles are really all about. The motion begins with a slew of having regard to and whereas that sound reassuring universal, like having regard to the Commission Green Paper entitled Improving the Health of the Population towards a Strategy on Mental Health for the European Union, and whereas the right to the highest attainable standard of physical and mental health is a fundamental human right, includes an obligation of non-discrimination. But when it comes to actual recommendations, the committee is evidently more concerned about the female population. There are 163 paragraphs in the report. 2 are devoted to men's mental health, right? 2 out of 163. Oh yeah. Whoa, oh yeah. Oh yeah, the feminists, they're all about equality, right? You know they're not. The document calls for women and girls to have access to screens, but not for boys and men. Member states are asked to ensure free access to health services for unemployed women, but not for men, who are far more likely to be employed, right? Like I say, and we see this in our lives, and especially if you're like someone like myself, me and my wife, like with raising 2 sons, it's like, man, they're giving the worst fucking. It's like you're trying to fucking tie both hands and one of their feet behind their back and say, okay, go compete with the ladies out there. Of course they're not going to be able to do a very good job at it, and it's not even a matter of that they compete, and even if they could, why do you want to fucking affect them in such a manner? That's just so wrong. And like I say, man or female, I wouldn't pick that for even if the situation were reversed. I would never want anyone to tie any woman's feet or hand behind their back and fucking say, here, try to compete with me then. I'll defend any sex in that aspect, in that regard, because it's all about, if you want equality, true equality is not equality of outcome. Because equality of outcome would never happen because humans are on different levels in many different aspects in our life. That's just the reality, folks. Sorry that you have to deal with that reality. Equality of opportunity is all that matters, right? Everybody gets their chance. You could get their chance. I'll give everybody a chance. Doesn't mean I'm going to guarantee you that at the end of this fucking race or any competition, competitive endeavor, or anything, that you're all going to end up at the finish line at the same fucking time, right? That's never going to happen. If you try to tell anyone that is going to happen, you're going to disincentivize the ones that want to lead the charge, and you're going to teach the ones that are at the back of the buses, you don't have to put any effort in it. You'll finish at the same time anyways. Like I said, it always destroys natural incentives, and when you destroy natural incentives are what has created the world that we live in, right? People's ability to want to do better for themselves. And the extension of that is if you do better for yourself, you have the capacity and the capability to do better for others. And even if you don't necessarily want to do better for others, the fact that you do better for yourself, that effect trickles down because either you inspire other people to want to do better for themselves too, or because you've generated so much income, so you're purchasing things, right? Or employing people. That's what raises and elevates us all. Collectivists are all about this race to the bottom. And really, women in this modern era have come to recognize and realize that they can't compete in the natural realm in certain aspects. And now, there are some aspects that women are heads and shoulders above men. Let me tell you, like I say, we need both. My God, I love my wife because she's that balance. Like, I realize that I'm a pretty good and I'm a moral person, but if I didn't have my wife and we didn't have each other to constantly correct each other, right, all the time, to put forth our own particular preferences, right, and say, hey, no, you're wrong there, Bennett, or no, you're wrong there, Monica. If we didn't have that capacity, that's what raises and elevates each other, right? So it's the respect for each other, not particular, not a sex, right, not a gender, not a race, not a demographic, a segment of the demographics, right? Not a generation. It's always supposed to be about the individual. And what Barbara is basically saying, and like I said, I don't have to read any more in this article, and I won't. It's a pretty substantial and a fairly long article, but I think you're getting the gist of it is, yeah, stop dividing the sexes. Stop promoting helping women and leaving men at the back of the bus because you think, they can take care of themselves. Even if it's because you recognize that they're more resilient, you're still telling them that, I don't really care about you because I know you can do your own shit. You're still giving and currying favor. Now, if you did that in just your own realm where you just even if you did, I wouldn't even say, I'd say you're wrong morally, but if you wanted to even just carry favor for women without using the power of government, I'm totally on board with that even, right? Like if you're a feminist and you just want to promote women's values, totally on board with that. But that doesn't mean you get to use the power of government as a means to squash or quell everyone else's ability to try to advance, like men advance. Let's be competitive in that nature because, like I say, that raises and elevates each other. Now, if you don't want to be competitive, then you don't have to. But that's why the rules are already set. You can be totally non-competitive. You can be a collectivist if you want. But just make sure that the other people that you're looking to take care of you are fellow collectivists. Those of us that don't fall in line with that collective ideology or mentality of that forced wealth distribution model, just don't try to force us into that. You do your thing and we'll never stop or prevent you from doing so, right? If you can create a little communist system or a socialist system in a community and everyone agrees with it and it's all done voluntarily, do your thing. I know I wouldn't want to live in that place. I'd be fucking packing my bags. If I knew in an area I lived in, they were all going that way. It's like, okay, hey, listen, that's what the people want. Do your thing, but I'll choose to go somewhere else. All we're saying is just give us a place, give us the ability to do what we like to do too. And if you look at what we're all about, it's not that we want to control or dominate them. We just want to be left the fuck alone. And men and boys have that kind of psychology. And no, it's not environmental. Environmental plays a small aspect of that. Of course it does. But that's built in the psychology of the male psyche. You're not going to eliminate that. And if you do eliminate that, then really you have a unisex kind of realm where everybody's all in the same mindset, doing the same thing. Talk about boring. I don't even think it would. Well, I think the species would cease to exist shortly thereafter. I mean, it'd take a little while, but that's where you're not just the race at the bottom. That's where you've fallen off the edge and you're headed straight down. And then it's just a matter of waiting until that final crash, hitting bottom, right? Skinny Libertarian, and I love liberty.